Hey friends, today we're going to work on a beautiful block lettering piece. I've written the word create. You can choose any word that you like, but that's what we'll be doing today in this video. The supplies you'll need will be a ruler, Dr. Martin's Bleedproof white or another white that covers well. Another thing that you could use would be a Uniball Signo white pen, an 18/0 Master's Touch short liner, a 1/4 inch flat Master's Touch brush. You can get these at Hobby Lobby for just a couple of dollars. There's another size you can use, which is a size 4 Master's Touch flat shader, a pencil, an eraser. I'll be using a Micron 08 size, a paper towel, a piece of watercolor paper that measures 4 by 9 inches. You'll want watercolor paper in 140-pound weight. I'll be using 2 colors from my lettering collection. These are Shimmers, Marry Me, and Silver Lining. Clean water. You may want to have some sort of palette to mix your Bleedproof white in, but you can use the cap if you don't have anything. And also optional would be a Darice Heat Tool. Let's get started. Let's start by activating our paint. We're going to drop just a bead of water on each color and set it aside and let it start working its way through that paint and activating it. Okay, your paper should measure 4 inches by 9 inches, and we're going to measure down from the top 1 inch. We're going to put a notch, and we're going to go to the right side of our paper, and we're going to put another notch at the 1 inch mark on this side. And then we're going to line up our ruler on those 2 notches, and very lightly with our pencil, without using any pressure, we're just going to drag our pencil across the paper so that it makes a very light line. We're going to do the same thing at the bottom. On the left side of our paper, put a notch at the 1 inch mark from the bottom up, and the same thing on the right side of the paper. Line up your ruler. Lightly drag your pencil across the paper to create another line. The space between the 2 lines should measure 2 inches. We're going to mark our paper in the middle, which would be 4.5 inches. So we're at the very top. Mark, just put a notch at 4.5 inches, and again at the bottom. And again, we're going to line up our ruler with the notches and lightly drag our pencil. Okay, so your paper should look like this. I'm going to line up my ruler with the center line, and I'm going to mark 5/8, every 5/8. And you're going to do the same thing at the bottom. Now we're going to line up our ruler with the notches, and we're going to make lines. I'm not going to go all the way from the top of the paper to the bottom. I'm going to stay within these 2 lines. It doesn't matter if you want to go outside those, you can. It's just less to erase later. Now let's do the same thing on this side. We're going to line up at the center line again, and we're going to go this direction to the left. So I'm lining up my ruler at the 5/8 line with that center line, marking at 0. Same thing at the bottom. Again, we're going to mark our lines. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 spaces per letter. I'm going to be painting the word create, so I will need 12 spaces. So I'm going to start with the center line. I'm going to 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start here. My first letter will go between these two lines here. You either want it to be centered in between the two lines, or you want to either left or right justify your letters. I'm going to left justify those, which means the left side of my letters will be touching the left line. That means I need to leave just a little bit of space between the right side of my letter and this line. So I'm going to start my C right about here, and I want to bring the center of it up to the very top line. I'm just lightly sketching this out. I'm going to be painting over it, and it won't be seen, hopefully. Does not have to be perfect. We're just getting the basic outline of the letter. Now my R is going to touch the left side. I want it to come all the way to here. Go through and just sketch out each of your letters. In traditional block lettering, you try to keep the midline for your lettering at the same level. See how the loop in my R is the same place that the crossbar in my E and the crossbar in my A sit. Next, we're going to sketch out some flowers, and we're going to do these. We want some of them coming lower than your word, some of them going higher than your word. I like to do odd numbered flowers, so I'm going to do 5 flowers. You could do this with anything. You could do stars, you could do flowers, you could do, I don't know, you could do paintbrushes or something that, you know, goes with the word create. And then I want a stem on mine with a leaf, and I'm just going to bring this one up like this with a little rounded leaf. So if you look at it right side up, it'll look like this. Then I want my next flower to go probably, let's put one on this side first. I think I'm going to do one up here that goes above the word. Let's do one in the middle. So that's your sketched out word, and your paint should be good and activated by now. I'm going to use my Master's Touch flat shader number 4, and I'm going to start with gold. So with shimmers, do you see how I have my water beaded up right in the center? Eventually you're going to make a little well in the center of your shimmer watercolor. Shimmers are a little different from mattes. This will just sort of act as like a little well or reserve for your paints. This is how I do it. I'm going to start up here. You should see movement and flow in your watercolor with shimmers. So if you don't, you're probably too dry and you need more water. In block lettering, anything that goes up and down is thick, and anything that goes sideways is thin. So we're going to make this isn't, you know, a vertical stroke, so it's going to be thick. Then I'm going to make this thin if I can. And the rest of the C will be thick. Then I'm going to take my flat brush, the flat side, and I'm going to make a little crossbar like this. We're going to bring the corner of that down using the corner of my brush. Then I'm going to go back and I'm just going to clean it up any rough edges. I might add a little bit more paint just to make it a little shimmery. The next letter that I'm going to do is the R, and it's going to be this silver lining. And I want to keep everything to the right of this line here. So I'm going to start here. Just making the initial stroke first, and then I'll go back through it with more paint. It's way too dry. You should see movement in the water when you lay shimmers. On my R's, I like to do a thin downstroke on this bottom part, but I don't think there's any rule to that, so you can do what you want to do there. Go back and clean up. This also is a good time to bring out one of your liner brushes. It's just easier to get in there. Okay, see how I dipped below the bottom line? We'll clean that up later with some of that pH Martins if we need to. Don't forget to switch colors. We're going back to gold now. Now with ease, I'm still wanting to stay below that top line and above the bottom line, like that. But with the middle crossbar, I want to center it with the crossbar. I'm going to grab my liner because it's just a little bit easier to make this rounded corner here. On the A, we're going to consider the left line to be, we're going to make it thin. Otherwise, if you make both lines thick, it'll be too heavy. So let's make a thin line on the left side of the A. And a thick one on the right side. Crossbar will be thin. On the right side of my A, it looked like my paint was not evenly distributed, so I'm just going to add a little bit more paint in here. This has to be fully dry for the next step, so I'm going to bring out my heat tool and completely dry it before I move on. The next step is to draw in our flowers. Anything on the outside of your letters will be black, and we're not going to draw over the tops of our letters. We're going to skip that. So let's go ahead and just trace your flowers. I'm going to switch to a Micron 05 because my 08 is out of ink, so shouldn't be too big of a difference. You could totally get by with erasing your pencil lines now and just leaving it as it is, and it would be completely adorable. But I'm going to show you another little step that just takes it to another level, I think. This is Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White. It's kind of dry and flaky inside, and so what I like to do is I like to scoop a little bit out. Well, this has a little bit of moisture in it. You don't need very much. And if it's completely dry, just spray it with your water bottle. You just want to try to get as much of the lumpiness out of it as you can, make it as smooth as possible. You don't want very much water either because you want the opacity to be high, and the more water that you add, it's going to make it transparent. But this definitely covers well. I'm going to be using my fine liner, the 18/0, Master's Touch brand from Hobby Lobby. Very inexpensive and it's worth it. It's my favorite liner. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to close the gap between the black lines that cross over, or right now they look like they're behind your letters. We're going to close the lines, close the black lines to complete the flower, and it will look like it's on top of or seeing through. It's just a nice effect, I think. Also remember that R at the bottom that I dropped below. You can do this in any place where you kind of got outside of the lines. Just use it to cover up your mistake. Then we're going to pick one spot to add, one or two maybe spots to add some dots. I think I'm going to add 3 little white dots right here. Might be different for you depending on the placement of your flowers, but make it a wide stroke. And probably, I mean, I picked the silver because I thought it would stand out more. We're going to grab our Micron pen and we're going to make some dots. This is easily overdone, so try not to overdo it. Maybe one on each flower. All right, so now we just have to let this dry and come back and erase the pencil lines. Okay, let's erase our pencil lines. All right, there you go. That was a fun tutorial, a little bit different than what we normally do, but it was a lot of fun and I absolutely love it. If you try this tutorial, please show me. I am looking forward to seeing what you come up with and your different takes on it. That's always so fun for me. All right, thank you so much for being here.